Hey guys, how you doing today? This is David Lucas back here again. Welcome back to my channel. Now today, I'm coming back at you guys again for another review. And for the first time, surprisingly, in a long time, it feels like in a long time, we actually are getting our first MCU movie. And we haven't had that in a long time. Lately, all we've been having are these MCU shows like WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and right now Loki. So now, this is the first time I believe I since Spider-Man Far From Home was the last MCU movie we had, and yeah, we're back here again with the MCU movie reviews. And now for our first MCU review in a long time, we are going to be reviewing here a movie I just saw over the weekend, and that is Black Widow. Now, before we get into this review, let me just say that if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate your support, guys, all the time on all my content on here I'm making. And now, let's get back onto the review. Now, Black Widow has actually been a really long-awaited MCU movie. It was supposed to come out like a year or maybe 2 years ago, but then that's like when the pandemic first came in and the whole, world shut down, basically, and yeah, it's been pretty much in just the air very much for the past 2 years, ever since the pandemic came. And finally now, since, theaters have been reopening and everything like that, because Disney was, hell-bent on releases in theaters, which I don't blame them at all. So we've finally got it in theaters now and on Disney Plus for Premier Access. I think you pay $30 on top of what you're paying. It's ridiculous. But now we're back here again with the MCU movies, and we're back in the MCU universe on the big screen, and I'm all excited for that. And of course, Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson, is one of my, great fun characters in the whole MCU. I love her character. I love her addition into the Avengers movies. I love her addition in the Captain America movies and Captain America Winter Soldier and Civil War. I like her in pretty much everything she's in. I think she was great, and I feel like her movie was so long awaited. We should have had her movie, in my opinion, we should have had the movie right after Winter Soldier. Like, I feel like her movie should have came out literally right after Winter Soldier. Should have been Black Widow. But, with the pandemic and everything else, I get it, and I'm just happy that now we finally have it. Now, that being said, let's me get on to my thoughts about this movie. Now, I want to get on to the good and bad of this movie, usually, so I'm going to start out with the good in this movie. There's some stuff that I actually thought were pretty good in this movie. Now, let me just say right off the bat, my first impressions, my first feelings of this movie, I gotta say that this movie was okay. It was fine at best. It was just fine. It was okay. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. But it wasn't really that good. It was, at the end of the day, just fine. That's the best way to describe it. Now let me start out with the good stuff. Let me start out with some of the stuff that I did think that were really good and that did work for this movie, because the bad, I'm going to go into the bad, and I want to save that for a little bit. But let's get on to the good for the start. Now, right off the bat, I gotta say something that I really loved right off the bat in this movie was the whole family. Was Black Widow's whole family, Natasha's family, the whole dynamic between them. Well, kind of her fake family. Is not really her birth family, but it's the Black Widow program family, and I love their whole dynamics together, just from the opening credits scene when we see them together, and you have that one song playing, and it just kind of all went together, and their dad, who is played by David Harbour here. Basically, to me, that was the best part of this whole movie, was the dynamic of the family, was seeing the family interact together. That one scene when they're all at the kitchen table together and eating and stuff like that. All their scenes together, to me, worked, and it fit, and it made me actually feel, that was, to me, really the only true, emotional pull at this movie, was that. Well, at least emotional pull that worked for me, was the family. Standouts of the family, and pretty much of the whole movie, I gotta say, the two standouts to me was Red Guardian, was David Harbour's Red Guardian, as Natasha's, fake dad, or program dad, or whatever you want to call it. That he was great. I wanted to see more of him, and it kind of disappointed me a little bit that we didn't get to see a lot of him, because a lot of it he kind of went away into prison and stuff for a lot of the movie. But the scenes that we do see him in, Every single scene was great. It was just great. I love his interaction. I love how he portrays his character of Red Guardian. I really loved it. I loved it, and it made me want to see more of him. That was the thing that I was a little bit disappointed, is that I wish we got to see more, because it was just so good from what we saw. I wish we'd seen more. I would rather the movie focus more on him than rather other characters of this movie too, and stuff like that. Just to me, it was just a joy every time he was on screen. And David Harbour is great. I love David Harbour and almost everything he does. Even that horrible Hellboy movie he was in, I loved him in there. Hey, David Harbour is just a great actor, in my opinion, and I'm so happy seeing him in the MCU. Other character, too, that's a big standout to me that I really loved in this movie, and that we are definitely going to see more of her going on into the MCU, is Florence Pugh's Alina, a.k.a. Natasha's sister, well, her program sister and all that. Yeah, guys, Florence Pugh, I'm not that familiar with Florence Pugh, I'll admit. I don't really know anything of her that she plays in. I heard that she was playing in this movie as Black Widow's sister, so I was like, okay, cool, let's see how this goes. And wow, I am sold. I like her as an actress. She's a great actress, and to me, she was one of the best parts of this movie. She stand out even more than Black Widow in her own movie. She was great. I loved all the scenes. I love her and Black Widow's and Tasha's chemistry together. Their, sister-like chemistry, and I like how some things, with their whistle and stuff like that, you hear later on into the movie, like they have their little stuff. They have like their moments together in this. I like too how she kind of was like being controlled at first, and then I don't know, I feel like when she did get uncontrolled, it was a little bit too quick, and it's weird. Talking about this movie more, it's weird. I am finding more stuff that I liked about this movie, but at the same time, I'm finding more that I disliked about it. But this is how this movie is, like that one scene where she loses her control factor because they're all being controlled. I don't know, to me, it kind of just felt like a little bit, kind of already happened, but still, I like seeing how now she's more free will and free-minded thinking. I love the scenes with her, copying off her sister or doing some of the moves that Black Widow has done and stuff like that. I don't know, I really liked too, and I liked the ending too, the end credit scenes with her and everything like that. We're definitely gonna see more of her into the MCU, and that's a for sure thing, I believe. Almost, especially with what's been setting up in the MCU TV shows right now, I am pretty sure they're setting up Thunderbolts and Young Avengers. I am almost 90%, something like that, sure, that they're setting up those two teams. And they are. I am all for it because I am excited. And I'm getting really hyped. I hope they don't give us something and then pull it away and be like, no, we're just kidding. We're not really doing that. I hope they don't do that. But it seems like to me that's what they're really setting up, and I will love to see Florence Pugh into the future of the MCU, possibly being, the new, not necessarily new Black Widow, but like new fill-in of Black Widow. Now since we all know her fate from Endgame, I would really like to see that. I would like to see more of Florence Pugh. She's a great actress, like I said, and a great addition to the MCU. I can't wait to see more of her, and to me, she was more of a standout than Black Widow herself in her own movie. Something, too, that I was actually hearing some complaints about, but to me, it worked, is that I actually really liked the action in this movie. I thought the action was really good and really intense, and I thought it was done great. I thought it was actually pretty cut great. Not necessarily other stuff in the movie was cut great. I'll get into that later. But, I thought the action was really good in this movie. I thought it felt like a good Marvel action movie. It felt like a kind of James Bond type of action. I liked it a lot. It felt very spy thriller action, and I loved it. Now, that's pretty much it for me with kind of what I liked about this movie. That's pretty much it for me. And now I kind of want to get into kind of my problems with this movie and why this movie isn't really one of my favorite MCU movies. Now let me just get right off the bat, the overall feeling of this movie, to me, the overall feeling just felt off. It felt really uninspired. It felt like the filmmakers that were behind making this just didn't have the passion. You can just feel going out to this movie that there was a good script. There was a good story in place for Black Widow's story, Good Black Widow story in place. But you could just tell the filmmakers, I feel like, of this film just didn't have that passion that you get from other filmmakers directing these properties, like James Gunn doing Guardians of the Galaxy, or Jon Favreau doing Iron Man, or the Russo brothers doing Captain America and the Avengers movies, you know? You just don't feel that passion for this character, or this story at least, in with the filmmakers in here. And you can definitely see it bleed through the film. You can see it through that. Everything just felt off. Everything felt like kind of like lazy. Kind of, that's the best way to describe it, kind of lazy. Kind of like, alright, this could be good. This could something be good. But let's just throw it in and get with it there. Okay, let's do this. Let's do a lazy way to do this. It just felt like there was no heart. Like, at the end of the day, it just felt like there was no heart from the filmmaker's perspective. But from the actor's perspective, yeah, from, you know, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, you can tell all of her heart and soul was in that. From the Florence Pugh and David Harbour and all the other actors and actresses involved in this movie, yeah, they all had their heart. They all had their passion into this movie, but just the filmmakers themselves, you can tell, probably did not have the passion that the actors did. I feel like Scarlett Johansson had probably the most passion out of anybody in this whole movie with it, and it definitely shows that she had a true passion for it, not the filmmaker. Something else too we can tell by all that is that a lot of the editing in there just seemed really lazy and really quick and really kind of just like thrown in there, you know? Like, there's a scene where Natasha and her sister are sitting there talking, having a discussion back and forth, having almost kind of like a heart-to-heart. And it just constantly cuts. Like, you can tell it just cuts after every single word they say. There's another cut, and like, you can just sit there and say, like, I was sitting there watching, and all I could sit there in my head is like, okay, cut. Oh my god, how many cuts are you gonna do? And it's just 2 minute, not even 2 minute, like a minute long conversation they're having. That stuff goes throughout this whole movie, where it just feels very just lazy and kind of like just stuff, they just did certain stuff in here that I don't feel like they really paid enough attention to while editing. The ending, too, to me, now I know is probably because we already know Natasha's, you know, fate and endgame. We already know what happens to her. But I feel like that is maybe a problem, and what goes into what I said earlier, that this movie should have been made a little bit ago, maybe like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. I feel like this movie should have been made, because I feel like it has to do a lot with how you feel about this movie near the ending. Because near the ending, the movie doesn't necessarily feel like it ends. It feels almost like it's like ends a first season of a TV show, which that's not how you're supposed to end movies. Now, there are ways to end movies where you lead up and you wrap up this story and then you tease for the next story, yes. But this doesn't necessarily do it. It kind of just, the fighting stops, you know, the hero saved the day, and then boom, the movie's ended. You know, we don't really see any repercussions or aftermath. I guess we kind of do see a little bit of aftermath from Endgame, but still, there is still time and still certain things that would be interesting to see right after the fighting stops, but it kind of just stops, and then we go into the after credit scene, you know, the post credit scene. And it kind of feels like, alright, kind of feels like it doesn't have a real ending. Now, I might get some hate for this, and if I do, I'm sorry, but I gotta be honest, and I gotta call it the way it is. The villain of Taskmaster in this movie is maybe one of the worst, in my opinion, out of the whole MCU. And no, it has, before anyone says anything, it has nothing to do with the gender swap, with all that. Nothing to do with that. I don't care if they swap gender. That doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if they swap gender, race, or whatever, sexuality. That stuff doesn't matter to me. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters to me is if the key facts of the character, the key personality traits, the key, just what makes that character interesting from what I read in the comic books is transpired and transported into live action good by the writing or the actors. And to me, that part of the whole villain of Taskmaster was not there. Yes, this villain could have definitely worked. I'll say right here, this villain could have worked with the actress they had playing her. She could have done right. She's a good actress. She could have done a good job. I can't remember her name. Completely forgive me. But I believe if she would have at least was given a line, I mean, I think she was given maybe one or two lines out of this whole movie, which is weird, but she didn't really even get a chance to really portray the character, just really stand there. And it's not her fault at all. it is the writing's fault. It is the writer's fault. It is the filmmaker's fault about this character. And Taskmaster in the comics, I know people don't know, but in the comics, Taskmaster, he's supposed to be like a smartass. He's supposed to always throw kind of quips and kind of talk shit, to people that he's fighting. And he's excited about fighting. He gets excited. He gets pumped up. He wants to fight. He wants to train. He wants to prove himself. He wants to prove how great he is. And while he's fighting, he's like a Deadpool. Like Deadpool and him and Spider-Man are a good, pairings together. You know what I mean? They all have that kind of personality quips or trait. Now, in this Taskmaster, it's a literal robot almost. Not necessarily a robot, but it's a mind-controlled person that doesn't speak, that learns the moves from a robot, from a computer that's in the helmet. This person doesn't even learn the moves. They don't even care about learning other people's moves or anything like that. They just watch stuff from a computer screen on their brain, and then their suit just mimics it. And it's like, what? And again, this Taskmaster has no lines throughout this whole movie, barely has any lines, maybe one or two lines, doesn't talk. It is nothing like Taskmaster from the comics. It is nothing like that. It looks somewhat like Taskmaster from the comics. Looks don't matter, I know, the looks don't matter, but the costume I'm talking about, it looks somewhat like the comics Taskmaster, but not really. The portrayal of it was as off, and again, it was not the actor's fault. It definitely was not the actress's fault. It was the filmmakers and writers' fault for just writing and portraying this character poorly. And I just really did not like how they did this Taskmaster. To me, this Taskmaster is a perfect comparison to Deadpool from the X-Men Origins movie, where you take a character and you strip away all their key personality traits. You take away everything that makes that character a character, like their personality and their quips and all that. You take that all away and then just put their name on this character and be like, yep, that's that character from the comics. Like, no, not Taskmaster at all. That's just some random mercenary. And now adding on to that goes with Taskmaster. There's this big twist at the ending with I pretty much probably spoiled it already, but there's a big twist at the end of who Taskmaster is, and the twist, it works on paper. Yeah, like you look at that twist on paper and you're like, oh, that works, but the execution throughout the whole movie of it just did not work with it. It just didn't work with it. And, like, again, on paper, the twist sounds cool, like, this is, I don't want to spoil, this is a spoiler review, by the way, if anyone is wondering. I know I say it's near the ending, but the twist is that Taskmaster is this little girl who the Dravos, I can't say his last name perfectly, is his daughter, and Natasha, back in the day, killed her daughter to get to him way back in the day. Well, she thought she killed him. Really, she didn't kill her. She just burned half her face and basically hurt her very bad. So now, this is the person that's Taskmaster, and she's going after Natasha, not because of revenge, but because she's being mind-controlled by Dravo. That's Taskmaster. And that is the big twist. And the twist just does not work, because throughout the movie, they're trying to throw you off in the movie. You can tell the filmmakers are trying to throw you off. They're trying to make this big twist, make mind-blowing twist, but it does not work, because throughout the movie there's nothing to really hint towards that. And yeah, and good twists are hard to find, but at the same time, you can still find the clues for that twist when you go rewatch stuff. You're like, okay. And this is literally nothing except for that one thing. Because throughout the movie, Taskmaster is built up. Now, again, I am not body shaming. I am not talking bad about body or physical or anything like that. But Taskmaster is shown to be a tall, big, imposing type figure. And the second he takes off the second she takes off the mask, they do a wide shot, the actress in the costume, and it just does not fit with the character who was underneath the mask, because now it's a small person. Now, I'm a small guy. I admit, I'm a dude and I'm a small guy. It probably looked like me if I was in a Taskmaster suit, just all kind of clunky and the thing was up to almost right here on her chin, and it was just big, and she was small. You can tell just how smaller she was too by like because there was this wide shot. You can just tell how small she is compared to what there, and it's just like you literally just changed the actor from in there so you can throw us off and make us believe that it's a dude this whole time, when in reality it's a girl, so we would be all thrown off and mind blown at the ending. But really it didn't work because the twist just didn't work, the execution of the twist didn't work, so now the twist just all falls apart and there's no mind blowing thing. It's more like, really, this, I get it, but he could have done it better. You know, you could have done the twist better. And that is one of my biggest issues with this whole movie, is that ending twist. It just did not work for me at all. Now, the basic overall thoughts of Black Widow, of the movie Black Widow that finally came out, is that Black Widow, sadly, is just a fine movie. Isn't that bad, but it isn't that good. It has a great concept for the plot. It has the action and the actors. They all do their part great. The actors, especially Florence Pugh as Elena and David Harbour as Red Guardian, those are definitely the two most standouts of this whole movie. But the movie falls short from the filmmakers themselves, I believe, and that the filmmakers just had no passion for this movie to begin with, and it just felt like it was a kind of lazy, thrown together, this is the best we can do, this is the best we can do with this cool concept, and just did it on their first try and didn't really try to do anything good with it. I gotta say, the villain in this movie is really bad, and it comes with a really bad twist at the very end, and that not necessarily is bad on paper, but is bad during the execution of the twist. And even in that twist, the villain just isn't even portrayed the way that the villain should have been portrayed. In my opinion, the villain was off from the source material of what he could have been. As a whole, my overall grading of Black Widow, I'm sadly am gonna have to give it a 5 out of 10. Yeah, guys, a 5 out of 10 for Black Widow. I really wish I could rank this higher on my MC list. I really wish I can give this a better grade and a better review. But it's just, I have to call it the way it is, and I just was not that much of a fan of this movie. I thought this movie was just fine. It was okay. Maybe I won't watch it ever again. Maybe if I watch it again, it'll be part of an MCU, marathon rewatch. That might be the only other time that I watch this movie, but as a whole, I gotta say, I'm not that much of a fan of this movie, but I did have good stuff in it, like Florence Pugh, like David Harbour as Red Guardian, Natasha as Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, I should say. She does a fantastic job. All the actors involved on this movie did a fantastic job and did their parts perfectly. I just wish that they would have interpreted the Taskmaster, the filmmakers at least interpreted Taskmaster, a little bit more accurate to the comics, not in gender, but in just the overall traits and personality. So guys, that's pretty much my review of Black Widow. Let me know down in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on this. Do you agree with my opinions? Do you not agree with my view on this? Let me know down in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on Black Widow. I would love to know your guys' thoughts on this movie. I would really like to know, because apparently it's doing good, audience wise. Everyone's making a lot of money. Everyone's going to see it, so I would really love to know your guys' opinion. And of course, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel and take a look at all my other videos I have on my channel. I got, a bunch of other videos on here that you can go check out. Got an In Defensive series on this channel. Got trailer reactions. Got movie reviews, TV reviews. I got a bunch of stuff on this channel. So if you guys are interested in all that stuff, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And as always, thank you again for watching. We'll see you later.